extra work that has gone into these last several months. I want to give a special shout out to Dave and our maintenance and facilities folks. Most of what they do goes unseen nowadays, especially these last 3 weeks with just a minimal amount of traffic on campus. But they've done so much over and above their regular jobs in order to help us keep the campus safe and clean and all that amidst the pandemic. It's so much. It was always critical for a lot of reasons. It's more critical than ever. I want to take this opportunity to thank our maintenance and facilities crew for all the great work. The campus looks great. I wish more people were on campus to see it. But in addition to that, all the extra installations and keeping stuff clean that's gone along with this period. We can't thank them enough for going above and beyond every day. And now with smaller ranks after the separation and incentive took hold at the end of last month. We don't have a positivity, a zero positivity on campus testing. And that is in part how we are keeping the campus and the services clean here, along with everything else we're undertaking for this crazy period. As you know, we've been mostly remote status now for the last 3 weeks, where we were 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 distance, 1/3 on campus, with the county hot zone going to yellow. The college was never in the hot zone, the orange zone, but now it's all yellow. Hopefully it'll stay that way tomorrow, and we'll start to move back to our 2/3, 1/3. We've been just clinical experiences and labs on campus for the last 3 weeks, about 90% distance. Hopefully next week we can go back to our mostly 2/3, 1/3 for classes. We still want to ask everybody on staff to come back if they can, relatively conveniently continue to work from home, to continue to work from home. If it's a real struggle, then come back next week. I'll put out a notice tomorrow morning after we see the county numbers. You probably saw last night that Binghamton University went back to face-to-face classes. Our on-campus positivity rate, is even smaller than theirs, as small as theirs is for a large university with a large residential population, which is extraordinary on their part. And, so hopefully we'll be able to follow suit beginning on Monday. Friday's a very light day on campus in either mode anyway. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. My main concern through this 3-week period, has been for our students who find the academics, more challenging for one reason or another. So the sooner we can get back to more of our on-campus activity, the more students will be able to get the support that they need here and be able to see their professors where they were signed up for those classes, face to face. And if we continue to socially distance and wear our masks, we're in good shape. The issues come when people get lax, as we know out in the community, and don't wear the mask diligently and socially distance. If we can continue to do that, we should continue to be in good shape. And when we were in our 2/3, 1/3 mode, people were doing a very good job of that. So we've got to continue to remind people of that, but particularly for community college students, the face-to-face is critical, as that personal support is so much of what we're known for, and why many students come to community colleges in the first place. I've talked about the memo that SUNY sent around, draft memo about their reopening procedures for the future. That means, we reopen after Thanksgiving, we reopen after the holidays. We never really close, but you know what I mean, when classes coming back on campus and people moving back into the residence hall, out and out of the residence halls and all that. There's a pretty lengthy list of likely requirements that SUNY will hand down for all 64 campuses here fairly soon. Most of them are reasonable. The big political footballs, if you will, are, they don't want anybody to start until February 1st. We were scheduled to start January 25th, which we can do online. We can begin January 25th online, no problem. And if there are clinical labs that are critical, where the students need the hours for their health science licensure, those kinds of things, would be allowed to, or you have to ask, but would likely be allowed to start January 25th in order for our health science students to get their hours in for their clinicals and labs, assuming the county cases aren't going crazy at the time. So that was the one big question people had. And the other is spring break. SUNY will likely eliminate all spring breaks. That obviously that has an academic schedule issue and contractual issues and that go along with that. But again, we would be reopening for on-campus classes after spring break. So they have the executive authority to do that if that's what ultimately comes down. But those were the two big items in that memo. We haven't seen the finalized requirements as yet. To wrap up, I want to thank everyone involved with our testing procedures on campus. There will only be more demand as we return from breaks here in the future for testing. It's helped us all. It's helped New York keep this pandemic more under control than most states because of all the testing the SUNY's doing with half a million students. But the demands will grow as we leave and return to campus here over the next couple of months with the holidays that are approaching. As far as our testing has gone, so far we have not had a positive test on campus, as you know, but we do have a test that happened recently. We haven't got the results back. We may hear any minute on those results for the most recent test. And we are doing what's required of testing in the yellow zone, which we would continue next week, but with more people on campus if things go as planned. But the whole effort has been extraordinary, and I want to thank Nick and Hans and Carol and even Kim, who's helped out with her medical assisting students and when we've tested at times, and again a whole bunch of people going way above and beyond what their jobs call for, and we appreciate it very much. It's been an extraordinary effort, and it shows. A word of advice to everyone who's here and maybe listening: pace yourself, because as stressful as this has been, it's likely going to be this way, and probably until next year at this time. So much is going to depend on the vaccine situation and the therapeutics that come along. A big part of the lessening number of deaths out there with the cases going up is we have much better approach to treatment and therapeutics right now than we had back in March, April, and May, when far more people were ending up in the ER and on ventilators and sadly dying, although the deaths continue. But we've all got to pace ourselves with almost 50 fewer colleagues out there as a result of the separation incentive, because this is going to go on for several months at the very least. And hopefully, I guess there are 2 vaccine companies that met with the CDC today, getting ready to apply for emergency authorization to use it. The other 2 are on hold. But it's very encouraging that 2 were meeting with the CDC today, not to apply, but to get ready to apply. So, and I'll keep our fingers crossed and pray for that to happen sooner than later. But thanks everybody for your extraordinary efforts during this time. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Dr. Drum? Thank you, Dr. Drum. 4.2 Middle States Update, Trustee Ball. Sharon, unmute yourself.
I know, I'm so sorry. I do that every time. Thank you, Chairman Panitia. It has been my privilege to serve as the board's liaison to the Middle States Steering Committee over these last months. Overseen by Dr. Penny Haynes, they have led the working groups through the process of absorbing the Middle States accreditation standards and guided the gathering of evidence that documents the college's compliance. They have persevered through major staff changes and, of course, through the arrival of COVID. And yet, they're in the process of producing an excellent reflection of the college's success and challenges. Dr. Kim McLean is co-chair of the steering committee, and she's interim dean of institutional effectiveness and enrollment planning. She has prepared a PowerPoint presentation to bring the board up to date this evening. After that, we will hear from Dr. John Connolly, president of Sussex County Community College and chair of our Middle States visiting team. First, Dr. McLean, are you there, Kim?
I am. Thank you very much, Trustee Ball. And on behalf of the lead team, I do want to thank you for your support all these months. Your insights have been very helpful, as well as your support. So I appreciate it. I'm just going to take one moment and make sure I can get myself. So Diana, it's saying that you haven't did a host sharing.
Just did. Sorry about that.
Okay. So, okay. Can everybody see that screen?
Yes. I can
Okay.
see it.
Sorry, it's hard for me to see people. Here we go. Okay. It's just taking a moment. Okay. So thank you very much for having me this evening. It has been a very rewarding process to go through the self-study process, and I'm very happy to be able to share some of our highlights of our findings. I'm just going to go through each standard very briefly and share some highlights of evidence that we have found to demonstrate that we have met the criteria within each standard.
Kim, do you want to introduce John?
I'm sorry?
You want to introduce John and have him, let's introduce John and have him just say a few words so the board can get to know him. Sorry.
We were going to introduce John at the end, so we'd have all the county meeting. Yeah, we talked about that, you know. Okay.
Excuse me. Okay, so standard one, mission and goals. This standard asks if our mission clearly defines our purpose and our strategic plan, and is the strategic plan and goals linked to the mission. So we have a lot of evidence that shows that we do have a clearly defined mission and strategic plan, and it was developed via extensive campus collaboration over a year-long process that involved faculty, staff, and administrators. It does address both internal and external constituencies. So for example, within our strategic plan, we have collaboration with workforce and the community. We have all of our programs are assessed on a regular basis, and our services as well as our academic programs align with the mission and the strategic goals. Our budget policy requires that budget requests do align with the mission and the strategic plan. And our strategic plan is assessed annually. I'm sorry, our goals are assessed annually and the plan every 5 years. Standard 2 is about ethics and integrity. It asks, is the college faithful to its mission? Does it adhere to its policies and represent itself truthfully? Evidence that we found, some highlights. We have a civility statement that was developed with collaboration by administrators, faculty, staff, endorsed by all shared governance, including the Board of Trustees. We have numerous policies that support ethics and integrity for both staff and students, such as the academic honesty policy, the non-discrimination policy. The President's Task Force on Diversity and Inclusion is one of our widest, all-encompassing committees which address diversity and inclusion throughout the college. We have a number of student programs that specifically support diversity, such as EOP and Men of Excellence. Our human resource practices are fair and impartial. We adhere to our contracts, and our search process includes an affirmative action resource officer who is part of each search. We do engage in regular assessment of students and their perception of our adherence to ethics and integrity, and we comply with all federal, state, and middle states policies. Standard 3 asks, is the learning at the institution characterized by rigor, coherence, and consistent with the expectations of higher education? All of our degrees at the college are developed in accordance with SUNY, NYSED policies and procedures, and they go through the governance process, starting from the faculty department up through the division to curriculum committee to the VPAA, and new programs go to the board. Every program on campus has a program mission and program learning outcomes, as well as curriculum maps, which indicate where courses are assessed within the program to meet those program learning outcomes. We have a comprehensive program review process, which each program goes through every 5 years. Extensive professional development offerings. For example, over the past couple of years, we've offered more than 380 professional development trainings. Our promotion and appointment process is clearly outlined in the faculty contract. We have college institutional learning outcomes, which ensure attainment of general education knowledge. And we have a variety of course offerings in both type and format, online, face-to-face, blend, as well as in different schedules, such as weekend, evening, and daytime. And we have numerous student support systems in place to help support students' academic progress, such as our library, our learning assistance labs, and programs of that nature. Standard 4, support of the student experience. This standard really asks, how does the college support student success? How does it help with student retention, completion, and et cetera? We have a comprehensive enrollment management strategic plan that provides for strategic recruitment and enrollment processes. We engage in extensive community outreach to support our workforce, as well as to recruit new students. Programs such as Fast Forward help also support with the recruitment process. We provide extensive financial aid support to our students and provide a lot of wellness education to help with student understanding of financial independence. We have, for example, 2 kiosks on campus, which provide students with the ability to learn more about financial health. We have a number of programs in place to support various levels of readiness. For example, we have developmental courses, which help prepare students to be successful within college level courses. We have strong academic advising, transfer and career planning to aid our students in attainment of their goals, as well as new student orientation and counseling programs, which help support their retention and completion. We have an athletics program, as well as a large student life program with numerous student events throughout the year. Our college has a lot of support from the Faculty Student Association, for example, the bookstore. And we engage in continuous assessment of our student programs, retention, transfer, and graduation rates. Student 5 asks, do you assess student learning to demonstrate goal accomplishment and make changes based on the findings in order to improve student learning? We engage in regular assessment of course student learning outcomes on every 3 years. Program learning outcomes and institutional learning outcomes are assessed every 5 years during the program review process. We have a very comprehensive and standardized academic program review process where programs utilize a template and they engage in assessment of their courses and their program, as well as extensive data which is provided to them about student retention, success, graduation, and et cetera. We offer professional development to enhance teaching and learning. And we have strong exam pass rates, employment rates, as well as transfer rates for our programs. And those are examined during the program review process with specific goals for retention and enrollment that are established within action plans for our programs. Standard 6 is about planning and resources. Middle States asks us, do you have a planning and resource allocation process in place that is aligned with the mission and goals? And do you engage in continuous assessment to improve your programs? Our assessment process, following the strategic plan, vice presidents establish annual goals, and then departments align their goals with their vice presidents. Those assessments occur on an annual basis. We have a strong history of using data to support decisions. We engage in IPEDS reporting, voluntary framework of accountability, student opinion survey, and those results are shared campus-wide. I mentioned earlier, we have a strong budget policy and process, which helps ensure alignment of resource allocation with our mission and strategic plan. Our various master plans do align with one another as well as with our strategic plan and help support our academic programs and our mission. We have received numerous grants and matching cost shares, as well as extensive support from the Bcc Foundation to support our students as well as capital improvements. Our annual audits demonstrate unmodified opinions, and we have not used our fund balance in several years. And our last standard is Standard 7, which is all about governance, leadership and administration. And Middle States asks to discuss how it is set up to help the college realize its mission and to not engage in conflicts of interest. We have a clear, transparent governance structure. Our organizational charts outline reporting. We do have shared governance on campus, and that provides for extensive campus-wide communication and involvement in decisions. Administrators, faculty, and staff are part of those processes. The Board of Trustees has bylaws in place as well as policies and processes to prevent conflicts of interest. And the board provides financial oversight, is very involved in decisions that are made at the college. The president has autonomy to perform his job, is evaluated on an annual basis, and is supported by qualified staff to ensure strategic plan attainment. The board engages in self-assessment on an annual basis, and the shared governance bodies also engage in regular assessments, and we just completed one a few months ago. And that is the end of my slides. I'm happy to certainly answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions for Kim?
Anthony, I just want to say it was well done. Good to follow. Thank you.
Yeah, very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon, do you want to
Yeah,
introduce
great.
John?
Yeah, great work, Kim, as always. Now we will hear from Dr. John Conley. He is the president of Sussex County Community College and chair of our Middle States visiting team. Dr. Conley?
You're muted, John.
And I've made the classic mistake by being muted.
I do it all the time.
And so we begin this very formal process with a funny one on me. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Trustee Ball. Thank you, President Drum. Thank you, Diana Lenzo, for all the work that she's done to coordinate my visit this evening. And your preliminary visit, which is going to be taking place November 19th. And then we believe, hopefully, there will be the site visitation, which will happen in March. I expect and anticipate, but we need to firm that up. I would like to just briefly let you folks know a little bit about me. I have been in higher education around 25, 30 years or so in one way or another. I have served as a faculty member in the biological sciences, teaching every discipline in the biological sciences that you can imagine, from cell biology to ecosystem ecology and evolution and so forth, down to microbiology and human anatomy and physiology. I've taught nurses and physical therapists. I've taught accountants. I've taught phys ed students. So the diversity of students that I taught was really quite substantial. I have, over my time, I have served at large institutions. I've been at small institutions. I've been at rural institutions. I've been at urban institutions. I've been at private institutions. I've been at public institutions. And I've served at the 4-year level and the 2-year level. So I think perhaps that when I visit, I'll be coming with a unique perspective that perhaps not all chairs bring with them. It is possible that in some visitation circumstances at some institutions, there is sort of a myopic view of higher education. I do not have that. And I just want you folks to know that that's what I bring. For better or for worse, that's what I bring. But I want you folks to, first of all, be reassured that it is not always the case that there is a visiting team with its chair that is in a friendly mood. That is an honest fact. All right. I am going to reassure you now that I believe not only in fairness and reasonableness, but friendliness and helpfulness. The purpose of this entire exercise philosophically is about peer review, institution to institution, expert to expert, colleague to colleague, about the mutual challenges we all face in higher education. We've seen them, we're dealing with them. Guess what? We're doing it right now with COVID. My goodness, is there a single institution of higher education that is untouched by this pandemic? No, it's affecting us financially. It's affecting our students. It's affecting the way that we teach. It's affecting institutional and educational effectiveness. It's testing our patience. Social capital is changed because of technology. All of this is happening in the blink of an eye, and we're all sharing it. So it's very, very important always, but especially now, for there to be a helpful hand that can be useful at times like this. And it is going to be my promise to you that I am going to assert whatever role I can in my role to make this a helpful process, one of mutual learning. And sort of the idea of the self-study is that there is a high level of introspection that takes place, institution-wide introspection. And the visiting team takes the documentation of that introspective exercise, and we do a little bit of that too to assist you. So we're the oblique and the cross-sectional examination comes together. We want to be helpful with that. So that is my goal. That's my objective with all of this. At the end of it, there will be a report, as you folks know, which goes to the commission. If you folks have not been through this exercise before, at the end of the day, the friendly John Connolly will deliver statements that feel a little bit robotic. Just need to know that the robotic responses of the report are the result of the structure of the Middle States Commission, how they like things to be. And so, for example, this is a pretty common statement. At the end of a report, it would read, in the team's judgment, the institution appears to meet this standard. Now, that is not a glowing, resounding endorsement, but that's the way that the language is supposed to read. Why? Because our job is to verify, to examine, to be helpful, and to verify. And so all we can do as a team is say that the institution, SUNY Broome, appears to, on the basis of our judgment, appears to meet the standard. We don't talk about exceeding the standard. We don't talk about the exceptionalism that's taking place at SUNY, not in statements like that that go to the commission. We will have observations. We will have commendations. All of those things certainly will appear. There will be suggestions that we might like to offer, which is the friendliest, loosest thing that we would offer as feedback. Then there are recommendations. recommendations are things you really should do. I mean, you really need to pay attention to recommendations. If there are requirements, if in the written report we present to you requirements, it means these are must do's. You must do these things in order to remain in compliance. And the reverse of that is that, in fact, based on our site visit, we found that you are not in compliance on these particular things. You may be in compliance with the standard, but you are not fully in compliance, and so there are some requirements attached to that. That, again, these are all entirely fixable, and they're just sort of an escalating ladder of helpful interjections. When I say helpful, what do I mean by that? Well, for example, you may have politicians in your community pestering Dr. Drum with this and pestering Dr. Drum with that, asserting political sword of Damocles over members of the Board of Trustees or something like that, all right? That if something like that were to be the case, we could come along and be helpful by saying, it is a requirement that you do the following things, that basically set proper boundaries for things. Perhaps you have strong factions inside of your organization that are working across purposes to the mission, for example. We can provide requirements that then help the institution to get through that stuff. And you don't have to expend internal social capital to do that. We are the bad guys, and we help you to make those things happen. So again, they're all intended to be helpful tools, etc. And I guess at this point, the last thing I might say is, if you folks have got any questions of me, I spoke with the Middle States Commission on Higher Education about questions I might ask of you. And I think that I'm just going to wait for the preliminary site visit on the 19th to do that sort of stuff. Don't really need to do any of that right now. But I would say that it would certainly appear on the basis of this evening that you as a Board of Trustees are well informed about what is happening on the steering committee of the self-study, and that you feel informed. I would just say that you want to keep that momentum going. The self-study is just about finished up at this point. You folks are finishing that. It will be submitted. I and my team will be reviewing it. And you folks should be aware of all those things along the way. So if at any time you as members of the Board of Trustees do not feel that you're getting information about the benchmarks and the landmarks that you're reaching and so forth, please let your administration know, because that we do consider that important, that the Board of Trustees be fully aware of what's going on with the self-study. So Trustee Ball, that concludes my remarks, but I am more than happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Not a
Thank
question,
you.
but a comment. I want to point out what a great job that Trustee Ball does do in keeping the entire board informed of the process, and certainly has made mention many times of just how much work that the self-study is and how much staff has been engaged in that for some time. And so just want to thank Dr. McLean for leading that work also on behalf of the college.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Trustee Ball, Kim, and John. We'll move to item 4.3, College Assembly. Maureen Breck.
Good evening, board members. My name is Maureen Breck. I am the incoming chairperson for the College Assembly at SUNY Broome. It's very nice to meet you all in this virtual capacity. For this fall semester, we had our kickoff for all three of our shared governance bodies. Our kickoff went really well. We held that through Zoom. We were able to welcome our new members and also make sure they understood the purpose of each of our shared governance bodies, and really focused on making sure that everyone knew what constituency they represented. We identified early on there was a gap. One of our constituents didn't have a communication listserv for their group. And so working with HR and IT, we were able to address that gap really early and make sure that those individuals were able to communicate with their constituents. We had just a couple of voting items so far. Our faculty council for community colleges representative had brought forward the resolution that they had developed regarding the vote of no confidence in politically appointed board members. This was in response to Chancellor Malatras's appointment. And so we had discussed in shared governance, what would be the impact of endorsing this? How would it impact our students? And we determined there was no benefit for students through endorsing this. And so we did not vote in endorsement of that. We also had an item that had been continuing from our spring semester. And this was actually a memo shared from our Council on Academic Issues. They had forwarded a recommendation to establish an assessment committee out of College Assembly. And in discussing this with our members really felt that assessment is becoming part of our culture. Dr. McLean has done such a wonderful job in her position. And as we lead these middle state efforts, we thought that assessment is everyone's responsibility, and it has become such part of our culture that we didn't need to have an additional assessment group, that everybody should be working towards creating this culture of assessment and supporting that. And as Dr. McLean had mentioned, the spring 2020 was the completion of a shared governance assessment. And so all three shared governance bodies, including College Assembly, are looking through those recommendations right now and ways we can implement and improve our shared governance. And I just wanted to update you on some of the presentations that have been given during College Assembly. Dr. McLean presented on the EIT, or the Electronic and Information Technology Accessibility Plan. And Michael Sullivan, the report that he had shared last week regarding the CARES funding was also shared with our College Assembly members. So that is my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I see that Trustee Todd is not with us, but I believe Asil Muhammad is going to take 4.4 and 4.5 student affairs and student assembly. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh.
I'm gonna
I'll take
be
4.5.
0.5.
4.4 is student affairs, Dr. Ross.
Okay. Well, Asil, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Dr. Ross for 4.4.
Got it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. As many of you know, with the retirement program, we lost 3 members of the division. And one of those members that we lost was Joe O'Connor, who was our Director of Public Safety and Health Services. I will give Nick, I want to introduce Nick to everybody, but I just want to share that the focus of the division this year is on our student wellness, because with the transition to online learning and alternative modality learning, we're finding that some of our students are really having challenges with it. So our focus, as opposed to activities, so to speak, we are trying to really intervene with our students, whether they're residents and even the students online, to intrusively intervene, because we have found that our care team is a bit more busy. Our students of concern committee is a bit more busy. So making sure that we can reach out and touch students even virtually is going to be very, very important for us and for the success of our students. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Nick Bray, who has stepped into Joe's shoes. I think he's doing a great job leading the team because we still have a very safe environment in which we can work and learn. So Nick, can you update us, please? You there?
Can't hear you, Nick, even though you're not muted.
Well,
He's gonna have
no
an
idea what Nick's going to tell you, so it's going to have to be Nick. And don't take this the wrong way, because he is fantastic. No, Nick's not working. Not working.
He had to call into our meeting this morning because his computer audio wasn't working.
The IT people will be over there tomorrow.
Dr. Ross, do we want to address anything else, or?
No,
that
I
under-
just really want people to meet Nick and hear how public safety is managing the COVID protocols and program because I think that's very important. We're also having to keep a watchful eye on the Carnegie building because we still have classes down there periodically as well. But I thought it was really important for people to meet Nick to understand the work that they're doing. And now he's muted. And to hear about the COVID testing because public safety is leading the COVID testing.
How about now?
Yes.
We can hear you, Nick.
Oh, it's a miracle. Worst introduction ever on my part. Oh my God. That is horrible. I'm very sorry. Legitimately, I'm so sorry about that. Ugh. So I couldn't even hear what Dr. Ross was saying. I came in the very back end, but I'll just pick it up and say, we've been instrumental in the COVID testing. We've done some, that's obviously the primary focus right now. We've done testing since the very beginning of the semester. The residents did a nasal antigen test. Kim McLean was huge on helping us get that done. Since then, we've moved on. We're doing PCR testing. It's a saliva test. It detects viral genetic materials. It's very, very accurate. Excuse me. It's a diagnostic test. So as I think everybody's aware at this point, COVID doesn't always have symptoms. So the idea is to try to grab these students that may not have symptoms before they become spreaders, and it shoots through the whole campus. So it's been going well so far. There are a lot of challenges. Dr. Drum touched on one of the biggest ones, which is just the requirements and the mandates. When they come out, they seem to change. So just keeping up with it at times is a challenge in and of itself, but we are working through it, and I think we're doing well. We're doing everything we can. Resources, scheduling, technical issues, communication, test sites. I mean, I could go on and on about the challenges, but we're working through them as they come, and we're getting it done. Right now, like I said, we've been doing this type of testing since the first week. Our testing has increased, mostly because of the SUNY requirements and the updates and mandates. Right now, the plan we have in place, which is SUNY approved, is we're testing 50% of our housing residents weekly, therefore getting 100% of our residents every 2 weeks. And in addition to that, the EC is in the yellow zone, so that's New York State. So we're also testing them weekly right now. As long as they stay in the yellow zone, we have to do a certain amount of testing down there, and we will continue to do so. And then we are also hitting a certain amount of commuter students, and faculty and staff is on a voluntary basis. We've had pretty good response to that. We've been able to get a certain amount of faculty and staff into every testing pool we've done so far, so that's been great. My understanding is not all campuses have been that way. This campus has been very good in those terms because we cannot mandate them, but they've volunteered, and it's been great. And then, just some more of kind of the challenges or things we're working through COVID related are, we get a lot of questions. We get a lot of emails. We're working the Campus Clear app. We just have people that just, different variables make every situation a little different, and people have concerns. Obviously we want to make sure we talk them through it and get them the best information possible. We communicate basically every single day with the Broome County Health Department, and that includes weekends because, we need to make sure that we're working together with them. So that's a lot of, that is kind of the, most everybody would understand clearly. That's kind of our primary focus, and then everything else we always do anyway. We're still covering the CEC with an officer. We're covering Student Village. We do have a safety officer is posted at Wales for business hours Monday through Friday to make sure that we do an appropriate screening for any visitors that might show up to campus that need to see admissions or wherever they may need to go. We don't want just people just showing up. They could potentially be sick. So we're doing everything we can to make sure everybody's as safe as possible. And again, I really apologize for the way I came in there because that was not good. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate Dr. Ross the kind intro. Thank you.
I can hold that over his head forever now.
Definitely. Yes, you can.
Any questions for Nick or Dr. Ross?
Anthony, I just want to say congratulations. I think the college is doing a great job, and at least from the healthcare side, what we see is the biggest challenge in getting people to understand that there's asymptomatic people that are carrying it. And, that's so important that people adhere to the precautions that we have, because there is a large population of people that are asymptomatic, but clearly are carrying the virus.
Thank you, Trustee Connerton.
And Anthony, if I could just comment quickly too.
Sure.
I'm glad to hear about the mental health checks of the students. That is a huge issue for sure. The thought that we're remote, so we don't have those issues. In fact, we're in K-12, of course, we're seeing that, and great to hear, especially when you're not able to do the same types of orientations and those types of things. So really glad to hear that. I know kids are struggling for sure.
Thank you, Trustee Andrews. No further questions. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Dr. Ross. We'll move to 4.5, Student Assembly Update. Asil.
Yes, hi everybody. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Asil Mohammed. I'm the newly appointed trustee for the Student Assembly. So Nick was, not Nick, I'm sorry, Dan. Dan was supposed to be given this report, meaning that was going to be his last report with you guys. And I had just come in, 2 weeks ago, but I'll be reporting his report. And in the report, we have the timeline of the election for the Student Assembly. We started the election September 9th and ended October 3rd. The timeline started as September 9th, packets were available for students. And the 21st of September, packets were due to student activities by 5 p.m. They were supposed to be emailed to student activities at sunybroome.edu. And then on the 24th, we have the candidates form by Zoom, 11 to 12. And then the election started on the 1st of October. And then the elections ended on the 2nd with the winners announced that afternoon. And then we had a leadership retreat, and that got pushed back a little bit, and it didn't happen until yesterday. And then that goes that for the election. But internally, as a student assembly, we're going through some changes. We just got change in officers. Some officers stepped down and new ones took over. And then we have a new advisor, Danielle Gerono. And we're looking forward to be working with her. And that somewhat completes my report. Any questions? I'm sorry, it's not a complete report because I haven't really been here the whole month, but I'm here for any questions.
Asil, thank you for filling in for Student Trustee Todd, and welcome to the board. And we look forward to having you starting next month. And great report.
Thank you so much.
Item 4.6, BCC Foundation Report. Kathy. Kath, can you unmute?
Okay, I just wanted to be part of the special club, the Nick Bray Club. So I did want to just say it's really good to see everybody. We certainly miss you. Foundation staff continues to work remotely for the most part, although we typically will have one person in the office on a daily basis to cover in case there are questions or people need additional information. My report is in the packet, and there's a lot of detail. Basically, I'll just let you know that financially, the foundation is in a stable position right now. Our revenue is up over last year, approximately, well, it's a little over $80,000. And that is directly related to an additional grant that we have just received notice of $75,000 that we've received from Lockheed Martin. Lockheed does support a number of our scholarship and veterans support service initiatives, and they did reach out to us because of COVID and wanted to know how they could help to support students in this difficult time. We are working with college staff to figure out what the best way we can help to fill some of the gaps. And it's likely that we may be able to support some of those shortfalls in the tuition assistance program, the TAP awards that are being cut for this year. So it's really good news for us. Most of the gifts that we have received and the revenue that we have collected has been related to our Student Emergency Fund, which is an initiative that we began early in the spring. We're ready to launch it right before COVID hit, which was a fund in which people could contribute to that would help students to cover unforeseen financial expenses that would surface that could otherwise jeopardize their ability to stay in school, stay enrolled, and complete successfully. So we will be providing even more support to the campus this year. We increased our scholarship support and also the emergency support. In addition, we'll also be giving this Lockheed money over. So clearly our donors and our corporate sponsors have stepped up in a really difficult time. We do see some of our fundraising efforts to be not as successful as we normally are, and we did budget for reduced revenue in contributions, and we also did reduce our staffing expenses by eliminating a full-time position at the beginning of our fiscal year. That's why our expenses are down so much. I did want to let you know that one key piece of engagement and fundraising that we do annually is the fall and spring student Phone-A-Thon program. Unfortunately, with students, most of the classes being remote and just not being able to host a bank of student callers to come into our office and reach out to our alumni, we're not able to do that right now. And so our staff are sharing the lists and making additional calls. And our hope would be that if things do improve in the spring, that we can bring our callers back. Our giving day will be our 24-hour giving challenge. Will again be held on the first Tuesday in December of this year. And we're very excited about launching our annual virtual campaign. And we hope you'll all mark that on your calendar. There's a lot of other detail in the report, but I do want to just focus on two things. Broome Magazine is at the printer today. And what I wanted to do was ask Diana if she would share the cover of the magazine. Much of the magazine is related to COVID. And I think she's going to zoom down a little bit. And certainly what we are finding is a very unprecedented time. We wanted to highlight the fact that our students indeed crossed the finish line despite the pandemic. And this is just a really incredible photo that probably doesn't need a whole lot of explanation, but this is the magazine cover. The magazine will be mailed in about 10 days, and you will all get a link to a digital copy. Normally I'd be handing this magazine out at this meeting, so we're giving you a little sneak peek. There are a lot of really, I think, beautiful stories about how our faculty, our staff, and our students stepped up in the time of COVID, not only to help each other, but also help our community. And so we're just very proud of it. Once again, there's a feature article in there that is just a beautiful story about 5 faculty members who have each have a minimum of 50 years of service. Now, 3 of them did officially retire this year. But it's a beautiful story, and I'm sure that you will be excited to see all the great things that are happening. Also included this year, in addition to the Bcc Foundation Annual Report, is SUNY Broome's annual report. The college annual report is included in the magazine for the first time, and we're excited to be able to show those reports together to identify that we are a unified team that is working together to provide this high quality education to our students. One final piece of really fantastic news that I wanted to share with you was that some of you are aware that there is an organization called SUNY Quad, which is a group of folks who are in the marketing and communications, fundraising, and alumni engagement offices of the 64 SUNY campuses. And annually there are awards, and I'm proud to tell you that SUNY Broome shared the top spot, earning 6 awards for different pieces, marketing campaigns, our magazines, producing things on a budget. And so I just wanted to share with you that SUNY Broome was at the top of the heap this year, and we were so very excited when all that was announced. And we share that record 6 awards with SUNY New Paltz, and it just couldn't be done without the amazing team that we have across campus, from our Marcom folks to the people that help us write the stories, to our faculty and staff on campus who participate. These are just examples of different campaigns that we have won an award for this year. And I think I see an adorable little boy in the bottom left-hand corner who was celebrating Giving Day with us. And that's Maureen Breck's son. And so he helped us win the award. So we're appreciative of all that. But I just wanted to just let you know that despite this pandemic, despite the fact that we're not together, we still have a lot to celebrate. We're honored to tell this story, and just want to continue to thank everybody for all of their support.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Thank you very much. It's an award for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Great job by you and your team.
Thank you.
4.7 facilities update, Dave Lagikis.
Thanks, Anthony. Dr. Drum, thanks for the kind words. I will be sure to relay those to all of our maintenance and custodial staff. So we appreciate that. My report will be brief. You have it in front of you. A couple of things that I want to highlight. We're looking at creating some additional outdoor, both student and staff space in the vicinity of the library and the Natural Science Center. I may have mentioned this in the past, but we're going to start to transition from the use of mulch to stone in a lot of our gardens to help mitigate weeds and reduce our time spent in weeding the gardens. Renovation work is nearing completion over in campus services for the new music performance room. There's just a little bit of floor that's left to lay. I think we have to hang a few doors and do some touch-up painting, but we expect to have the certificate of occupancy issued next week. So that work is coming to a close, and the end product is pretty impressive. It's I had Penny Haynes over there yesterday, and she couldn't believe how good it turned out and how good it looked. So my congratulations to our staff that has been overseeing that, and also the consultant and the contractors. We've been doing a lot of work across campus. And when I say a lot of work, this is by our staff, our maintenance staff, and our custodial staff. We've replaced the stairs at on the north side of the student services building, put new concrete stairs, a landing and railing. We've upgraded the entrance to the old science building on the east side. We're in the process in general of doing upgrade work to both student services and old science, both on the exterior, as I've noted, and also on the inside. One of the things we hope to do on the outside is to paint some of those colored panels to be more consistent with the rest of the landscape across campus. So that work will be started hopefully this fall and then finalized next spring. We are looking at a couple of architectural proposals to, number one, relocate and renovate the photography lab in the old science building, and number two, to replace the library roof. And as I said, the last thing that I want to recognize is, and Dr. Drum kind of alluded to it, we have a very talented staff, and we're going to utilize them to the best of our ability to make whatever improvements we can, both inside and outside the campus, to enhance to enhance its appearance, its safety, and its functionality. So that is my report, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Seeing none, thank you, David. Michael, I assume 4.8, 4.9, and 4.10 budget grants and investment are just standard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 4.11 human resource update, Lynn?
Good evening. For September, we have a standard personnel activity report.
Thank you, Lynn. 4.12 budget and finance update, Michael?
Yes, so we had a pretty thorough review of both last year's budget, which ended in our fiscal year, August 31st. The annual fiscal report is due to SUNY at the end of this month, so we'll be providing that. And based on that information, the monthly forecast, really the last one for last year, we're predicting that we're going to eke out a balanced budget, and that represents the fourth year in a row that we've had a balanced budget, and we're forecasting that unrestricted fund balance will be in the neighborhood of about 9.5% of total operating costs. So we're very close to our goal of being at about 10%, which is about the middle range that's recommended both by middle states, but also other financial institutions relative to what a reasonable amount of fund balance should be. This is particularly important as we're trying to address both last year and this year, significant reductions both in reimbursements by the state as well as cuts by the state. In the report for last year, although it has not been a cut yet, the state has reduced our fourth quarter payment by 20%, which is a little over $700,000. And meanwhile, the most recent information that we've been receiving from state budget as well as SUNY finance office is both to higher education institutions and aid to localities, to local governments, a 20% cut in state aid for this year. That's really been put on hold post-election, national elections, and but for the college, 20% of about a little over 13 million of state aid would be about a $2.7 million reduction. So clearly cash flow, if our target is generally at least 60 to 90 days of cash on hand, it's really important to have an adequate amount of fund balance available for these type of circumstances that arise during the ebbs and flows of any fiscal year. So as I indicated at Finance and Facilities Committee, we'll have a much more comprehensive forecast for the current year's budget at the December committee meetings. We'll have a much better idea as to what the state action is most likely going to be. And that's really the major driver. In addition, for our voluntary separation incentive program, there were 7 faculty members that took advantage of the program and 32 non-instructional staff. We had about 250 full-time non-instructional FTEs, so 32 that took advantage of the program is about 13%, which is pretty significant. So we're using that as an opportunity to restructure a variety of departments and divisions. Each of the 3 divisions have developed draft plans to try to reduce their staffing in light of these financial constraints that we're having to face. And we should have a pretty clear plan over the next several weeks of trying to reduce staffing, being that's 87% of the budget is payroll and benefits. So we should have a much better idea of those plans and how we're going to implement those plans over the next several weeks. So between the staffing and a clear idea of what state actions are going to occur, should have a much better report relative to the current year's budget and the steps we'll take to try to ensure that it remains balanced for the rest of this year as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Michael. Great job in balancing the budget. Any questions for Michael? Seeing none. 4.13 Student Village Housing Report, Dr. Ross.
$72 bond payments made through October. There are 215 residents, which includes 6 RAs. As you know, with COVID, there are only 4 students to a suite and only 2 students share a bathroom. And that's the report.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. 4.14 media reports in your packet. Item 5.0 committee report. Kathy, you want to give us an update on FNF?
Sure. The minutes from the October 20th meeting are in your packet. We had, I think, a very good and robust meeting. It was my first meeting chairing, but I want to compliment everyone who reported out. Michael, I think in these uncharted times, you know, what you just reviewed with the trustees and was also reviewed at the FNF committee. And, you know, it's about as clear as anyone can expect it to be with all the challenges that the college is facing right now. So all the items that were brought up for discussion were discussed tonight in the various reports. So as submitted for approval. Oh, Anthony, you're on mute.
Thank you, Trustee Connerton. Bob Benke, I have a question for you. We have 2 action items. Is Asil officially a board member so we can vote on those action items since he took over for Trustee Todd?
Under the student assembly bylaws, when does his term start?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
My term
Okay.
started the Monday after I was voted in a Friday, so my term started the next Monday.
All right, so your term's already started, then he's eligible to vote.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. I'd like to go back to item 1.0, approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Kathy. Second by, I didn't hear who that was.
Orban.
Hi, Jim. Second by Trustee Orban. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Going back to item 2.0, preferred action items. Kathy just gave an update on the FNF. Anybody would like to move that?
I'll move motion to approve.
Thank you, Kathy. Second by Barb. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Our next board meeting is scheduled for December 17th. And can I have, unless there's any other questions, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Kathy.
Second.
Second by Barb. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
everyone. Welcome, Asil.
Thank you. Nice meeting everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you, John.